There is no set timetable for when a player is supposed to emerge after being drafted, and the development period early on in a player's career is incredibly important for the outlook for the rest of their time in the league. Sometimes we see a top prospect step onto the court and immediately from day one dominate the scene, but more often than not, there's a lengthy learning curve that takes place where these young players provide inconsistent production at best while they adjust to the league's talent level. I understand it can be frustrating at times experiencing these growing pains, but you shouldn't be so quick to give up on a talent in their early years, and this brings us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be discussing 4 young players that have had a tough time early on so far, but you would be foolish to give up on them because of it. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first young player we'll be discussing today that you should absolutely not give up on yet despite his undesirable start to his career is Jalen Smith of the Indiana Pacers. Smith was drafted 10th overall by the Phoenix Suns back in 2020, and from the start, he was set up for failure there. Immediately in his rookie season, the team went from a promising rebuild to a title contender, so they weren't exactly a team prioritizing the development of their younger players anymore, and as a result of that, Smith hardly ever saw the floor, and when he did, it was primarily in garbage time. As I mentioned in the intro, not every young player is ready to contribute positively from day one, but the guys that need time to develop also need to be in low-pressure situations where they can get consistent minutes and play through some of their mistakes in order to learn and grow individually, and Smith was in the exact opposite situation in Phoenix. After just 2 years, the Suns declined the team option to bring him back for a 3rd season, which essentially showed that the team gave up on him, but at the trade deadline last season they traded him away to Indiana, and ever since he's been freed from the Suns bench, he has actually shown a lot of positive things to build on. In 22 games that he played as a Pacer last season, he averaged about 13 points and 8 rebounds per game, while shooting 53% from the field and 37% from 3 off the bench, which is pretty strong production for the minutes that he was getting. He has a fluid jumper that can be honed in on, he's a solid rebounder, and he's shown that he can produce when given the chance. He's the perfect example of how the situations that players come into matter, and going into next year, I fully believe he can continue to show even more signs of potential. The next young player that you definitely should not be giving up on despite early struggles in their career is Cam Reddish of the New York Knicks. Reddish is a player that came into the league viewed as a guy oozing with potential, and quite simply that potential just hasn't come into fruition yet. He has such an ideal build for a wing player standing at 6'8", with long arms and a fluid shooting stroke, but through 3 seasons he has defined inconsistency. In his first 2 seasons in the league, he was one of the least efficient shooters of the basketball in the whole league, but then early last season he started to put things together and buy into a scoring role where he was reliably knocking down 38% of his threes with the Atlanta Hawks and providing a secondary scoring punch that you could build off of. The reality of his situation in Atlanta, though, was that he didn't really fit in with what they were trying to do, so they traded him to the Knicks, who were in desperate need of a wing player at the time, and while you would have thought this was a perfect opportunity for him to take a leap, instead, he found himself in Coach Tom Thibodeau's doghouse and ended up only playing 15 games for them in very limited fashion. I'm not going to sit here and make every excuse in the book for his individual production because he does need to take some responsibility, but it's also pretty apparent he hasn't been given a completely fair shake either. There's clearly talent there, and nobody has ever really tried to fully extract it out of him yet. I think one of the biggest problems is that Reddish plays as though he's trying to be the star of the team and can end up trying to do too much. He could become a phenomenal 3-and-D player if he bought into it, but he has to have the mindset to do so. Not everybody can be a star in the NBA, and some of the biggest downfalls of guys with talent is them refusing to adjust their games, so I hope Reddish figures this out and gets his career back on track. The next young player not to give up on despite their early struggles in their career is Jalen Suggs of the Orlando Magic. In the 2021 NBA draft, Suggs was highly regarded as one of the safest selections at the top with possible all-star upside, and when the Raptors drafted Scottie Barnes over him, almost everybody was shocked and thought the Magic got an absolute steal landing Suggs at 5th overall. Well, now that we have the power of hindsight, we see the Raptors absolutely nailed that pick, and after the season Suggs just had, you can't help but come away disappointed. Suggs was supposed to be the most NBA-ready prospect of the class at the top, who could give you a little bit of everything: control the tempo, create for others, shoot the ball while playing some solid defense as well, but his rookie season did not go to plan. He averaged about 12 points and 4 assists per game, but he shot a miserable 36% from the field and 21% from 3, which absolutely needs to improve, but thankfully there is reason to believe that it will. I say this pretty much every year, but young rookie guards are pretty much always inconsistent and inefficient as scorers, and the ones who aren't are very rare. Suggs has been a capable and willing shooter for his entire life leading up to the NBA. Additionally, Suggs struggled with injuries last year, so he wasn't exactly 100% healthy through these struggles, and despite that, he did still rank as a positive defender, and defense is usually the side of the ball that young guys take the longest to successfully impact. With Paolo Banchero on the team now, along with Markelle Fultz making his way back into the rotation, a healthier Suggs won't be expected to do nearly as much, and that relieved pressure could see him settle into more of a secondary playmaking role, more suited for his game in order to maximize his strengths on both ends of the floor. And finally, the last young player you would be foolish to give up on despite early setbacks in their career is James Wiseman of the Golden State Warriors. I know Wiseman isn't a guy that I've necessarily been super high on when previously discussing him on this channel, but that's within a certain context, and I see so many people going far beyond the reasonable critiques that there are for him. I always believed it was a mistake to take him number 2 overall in the 2020 NBA draft ahead of someone like LaMelo Ball, but that doesn't just mean that he's a bad player, which is a take that I see so many people going as far as to say. Wiseman has decent production as a rookie, averaging about 12 points and 6 rebounds per game, but he's really struggled with a ton of injuries, which has cost him his entire second season. Wiseman's physical attributes as a 7-footer with a 7'6" wingspan are truly tantalizing, and the reason why there is so much negativity around him is because, on top of the fact that we haven't been able to see him on the court much, he also struggled regarding some of the instincts defensively, committing a lot of bad fouls and failing to stay disciplined as a rim protector. These are the kinds of things that players can learn with good coaching and experience over time, and being on the Warriors, I'm pretty positive that he's getting coached up as much as possible, so now he just needs to get more games under his belt. He runs the floor beautifully for a big man, he can fly high above the rim as a roll man in the pick and roll, and he's shown glimpses of a 3-point shot that could become an asset down the line. He may not be the future all-star that the Warriors thought they were drafting with the 2nd pick, but he still has a long career ahead of him. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these players and their futures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.